Hello, everybody. I'm Rock, and welcome to the Stadia Still Alive show. No, seriously, though, big shout out. Rock is not feeling well, so he's asked me to help co-host the show here, and we've got a star-studded lineup cast here to weigh in on all the happenings that has been going on these past couple of days in Stadia land here. So it looks like the blog post is live. So we're gonna move on over to that here, and let's bring it up here. We've got there we go, right, and here we go. Before we start here, I know there's a lot going on. I just want to introduce everybody. We've actually got SPG here. How you doing? Glad you're feeling better, my friend. Thank you so much for stopping by here. And we've got a special guest, another special guest here, formerly known as Clive. We've got God. How are you doing, God?
Yeah. I'm not the God. I'm a God. As Bill Murray says in what's that? Anyway, the
God of the Cloud.
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Yeah.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah, it's good to be on the show.
So happy to have you here. Fantastic show last night. You were just totally killing it. But yes, we'll talk about that in a little bit here. We're going to move on to our next special guest here. I'm not sure if he really needs any introduction, but he's the one, the only MM2K. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. And just to everyone can calm their nerves. I've screamed for the last 3 days, so my voice is very tempered. So you don't have anything to worry about. You can turn your decibels up just ever so slightly.
And finally, but not least, we've got Fletch. Fletch, how are you?
Hello. Yeah, doing very well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you, everybody, for being on the show here. And everybody in the chat here. Boy, there's tons and tons of people. We've got Petter Games, Victor Del Maestro, and Now Your Mama Knows. Tons and tons of people. Dre's here. Look at this. Dre's God himself present. They all caught that. Boy, lots and lots of people. So let's go ahead and get started here. The blog post here. So it says, this week on Stadia, we kick off a month of love with sweet deals here. So that's awesome to see here. So let's move on. It's game over for the year's first month, but here at Stadia, we're just getting 2022 started. We're kicking off the month of chocolates and love by extending some sweetness to our dear Stadians. So here we go. We saw My Hero 1's Justice 2 was rated. I believe, was that in December, late December, that was rated by the ratings board here. I believe it was. And last Tuesday, we saw it pop up on Twitter in the little preview post there, but it wasn't part of the 2. So it looks like we're finally getting it here. It says the battle for justice continues, but this time the fight gets bigger, badder, and quirkier with My Hero 1's Justice 2. Play through the anime as you relive iconic scenes, pick up after the finish of My Hero's 1 Justice, and see what happens to, oh boy, here we go, Deku and the class of you at UA. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I'm horrible at names.
It was satisfactory to us anime fans, so you can
satisfactory. Okay, is that correct? Deku?
Deku.
Okay, good. So that comes out here February 15th. So next a week from today, it looks like here, which is awesome. Glad to see. I know a lot of people were waiting on that. Here's another game that people are excited for from our friends at Koei Tecmo here. It says here, conquer ancient China in Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires. Don't miss the chance to engrave your name in Battlefield lore when Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires drops on Stadia February the 15th. Test your might against insurmountable odds in a 1 versus 1,000 melee with conjuring up a battle plan in a country-conquering simulation. You'll have the chance to build alliances and navigate the nuances of backroom and backstabbing, politics to ensure your force fights as one, with options to play as rulers, officers, or freelancing mercenaries. You'll experience exciting battles where wisdom and courage intersect in castle sieges. Pre-order now. Nice. So that's great. I know, Fletch, you're excited for Dynasty Warriors 9, aren't you?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it's definitely the top game of this year for me so far. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Looks
That's
really
awesome.
complicated though, like something you could really get lost in, like in the level of detail.
Yeah, completely. I think someone was saying it's something like 60 to 80 hours.
Wow.
Just to sort of go through it all.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
More. So yeah, a lot of content there. And the plus side is as well, if anyone's in the UK, I don't know if it's for the US, but at the moment there's a 6 times play points available in the store. So if you want to pre-order Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires, you get 6 times the amount of play points as well to use towards rewards.
Wow.
Which is always a bonus.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Try before you buy Rainbow Six Extraction demo. Forget guns and ammo. Your team is your greatest weapon in Rainbow Six Extraction. You and your squad can combat both your nerves and emerging alien threat in this tactical co-op shooter with nothing to lose during this try before you buy period. The only thing stopping you from giving this game a go is your own fear. And I think this is a Rainbow Six Extraction. I think like Ubisoft did a really good job on this with including buddy passes. So anybody, that has the game comes with 2 buddy passes. You can give them out to your friends. They get a 2-week trial of it here. So if I'm not mistaken, between the buddy passes and the demo, you can get almost, I think, a month free out of this game here. If you have a friend, they can give you both buddy passes. So it's just after 2 weeks, you get the other buddy pass, and then you've got the 2-hour demo here as well. So that's a great way to try out the game and see if you like it here, which I know I've been enjoying it. I know Fletch as well.
How about you, Clive?
So like at first I didn't realize the where to go for the solo. It's a bit like Rainbow Six Siege. Actually, it's not always obvious. Where you sort of have to go through the menus a bit to get to the solo bits. But then once I've discovered that, I mean, I'm playing a lot of solo, and it's quite fun. Yes. But although it's very frustrating because just as I've rescued someone, like it's that literally 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Like, oh my god, now he's captured. Oh, now she's okay. And so I'm not actually getting any of the missions done because I just keep going back having to rescue people again. But it's quite fun in that regard, and the things are always different places as well. So I quite like randomly generates where the things that you need to do are and stuff like that. And it just plays very slickly and plays nicely, and I think it's quite tough though on solo, but it is good.
I had a very similar experience. I know what you mean. You start to lose your folks, and then you go to get them out, and you get most of them out, and then you go back in to do a solo thing and do all 3 objectives, and then you lose that person. And it's fun though. Especially for those that didn't enjoy the PvP section of Rainbow Six Siege.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is, because some people don't like that kind of PvP stuff, so you get all the same benefits of like a Rainbow Six Siege game, but I
suck at PvP. As you guys remember, when we had the Stadia event, the only kill that I got was on Jim. and he was our partner.
Yeah,
so this is right
kill.
in my alley.
Still fun. So moving along here, we've got a free Playday weekend, Jackbox Party Pack 7. Get ready for 5 new games, including the hit threequel Quiplash 3 and collaboratively chaotic The Devils and the Details from Thursday, February 17th to Sunday, February the 20th. play Jackbox Party Pack 7 at no cost as part of Stadia's free play day weekends. So I don't know. Has anybody here played any of the Jackbox Party Pack games?
Yeah, I think I bought one of them. I think, and I was trying to check whether it's that one because I was thinking, oh gosh, I want to try it. I think it was I'm just checking now. I think I bought Jackbox Party 8, maybe,
Okay.
for Christmas, over Christmas, just to play with my kids.
Yeah,
you know, so we could play as it's kind of as a family, as it were, and stuff like that. And yeah, we had great fun. It's the one in with like a murder hotel.
Oh yes, yeah.
Kept playing all the time. Really, just really funny, and yeah, all ages can play it. That sort of thing. Well, all ages. Do you know what I mean? Like the questions, you either know that or you don't. They're completely random or whatever, or the guesses and stuff like that. So yeah, we had a lot of fun over Christmas, just the three of us playing it. So it was good.
Well, the very first Jackbox game that was released, you streamed it, John, and I played with you guys. And the cool thing about the Jackbox games is if you own the game and you're hosting a session or whatever, anybody can go online and play for free. I believe they can join your game.
It was Jackbox
really
6. Cool. Sorry, yeah, Jackbox 6 is what I got. 6. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's I agree. Like I love these Jackbox games because they're just great. Like you could just go in there. You don't really have to know much and just play. Play with your friends. It's great for streaming as well because. Like SPG mentioned, you don't just the person owns it, and anybody that wants to play, they go to jackbox.tv, put their name in, put the code in, and play along. It's
play on their phone. Play along.
I don't know
what
game.
Stuff.
I don't know what game we were exactly playing, John, but it was very interesting to see everybody's artwork that was trying to.
Yeah,
it was amazing. A lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
They're great games. So moving along here. American football fans are super excited because Super Bowl is this weekend. So Madden 22 is going to celebrate the Super Bowl. Feed your NFL postseason obsession in Madden NFL 22 with Play to LA. Check out the Super Bowl content and the ultimate team that celebrates the past, present, and future of the big game. Then watch this official prediction video featuring, oh boy, here we go, Marshawn Lynch. So I'm not quite sure who that is, but I'm sure football fans do. So it's great to see. Every year that EA in their sports games, they always take part and have the little hoopla around things like the Super Bowl and the Stanley Cup Finals and things like that. So just great, and another way to be able to celebrate all the goodness of Super Bowl here.
I'm assuming Madden 22 works in the same way as kind of FIFA 22 in terms of the cards you collect and stuff like that, and putting the teams together and ultimate team and all that kind of stuff. I imagine it's the same, but my son is obsessed with that, and I've already spent probably between him and me, my money and his money, we've probably spent at least 70 quid on points just to buy packs.
And they're not guaranteed, are they?
No.
It's a roll the dice on what the pack gives you.
And he watches YouTubers who just most of their stream is just unpacking packs. That's what it is. Oh, it's a walkout. It's a walkout. Oh my God, it's a walkout. It's a walkout. That's the language they use. And I had to sort of say to him, what's a walkout? And he goes, oh, it's good because if they walk out, they literally sort of walk out the sort of on the front of the stage, as it were. So it's a good one, or there's smoke flames coming up when they're revealed and stuff like that. And so it's like, oh, have I got a winner? So it is a kind of sort of scratch card element to it, like that, and it's just unbelievable. But then they set different, different tasks. So can you get all beginners and match the chemistry and do all this? And so I'm assuming exactly the same model is applied to Madden, or like in this case, Ultimate Legends. Can you put a team together with Ultimate Legends and achieve X, Y, or Z, and stuff like that? And without even playing the game, it's that bit which is like where the money is for EA. It's sort of putting those packs together, doing the challenges that they get you to do, and all that sort of thing.
I'm not familiar with FIFA, so I realize it's a roll of the dice and all that, but how does it actually work? Like, you can you grind, I guess, for that currency, or is it only out of pocket? Like, that's the only way to get it.
You can grind for points. Yeah, you can grind for points. You can and you can buy and sell players as well. But then they do sort of special packs. And I think, I think, and somebody in chat can correct me, I think you have to buy those ones when they're doing the sort of the special packs and stuff like that. And some are non-sellable things. So you might get a player, but it's a non-sellable player card. There's so many complicated levels to it. It's a real obsessive card collecting thing. They are blizzards. You grind by winning tournaments. Yeah. So then if you go out and you put your ultimate team together, and then you play, you play enough matches and get enough points, whatever, then you can feed that in. But the shortcut is to spend money.
Yeah.
As someone who plays FIFA, I know the pain of grinding and spending money. But just a shout out on that news as well is they didn't mention it, but FIFA 22 has its Future Stars update out now as well.
Yeah, that's what my son's doing. Yeah,
my
because I said to him, who's that? Like he had some young English player, and I was saying, who's that? And he was saying, oh no, it's the Future Stars edition, and you got to put a team together using them and achieve all these things and blah blah blah, and then they get, the card gets upgraded if you've achieved such and such, and their rank goes up and all this sort of thing. Yeah.
What I can say about Madden in the States, I'm personally not familiar with a lot of this DLC because I'm even 1,000 games in. I'm still trying to learn how to play, but I haven't even got the score. But this is huge, and this is why Madden and even FIFA, they're like chart topping games, and they don't slide off. You know what I'm saying? Like they stay on the top of the charts month after month after month until the next iteration comes out. So this is huge, and this is going to be big for Stadia because I don't want to go too far in the weeds, but when it came to Microsoft and they were having their stint to where their AAA games weren't being developed or whatever, they were surviving off of the DLC that were being sold, right? And stuff like this coming from Madden and other top tier games. So having a game in your catalog that can produce this type of revenue is huge.
Yeah. Right. Now, people are just like, it's annual. And if you're on the outside, you go kind of, what's the point of buying it again? But if you play it, FIFA or Madden, there's a massive audience for it. It's absolutely bang.
Yeah.
As soon as it comes out, you're buying the next one.
Yep.
Even if the iteration is only small, it doesn't matter. And as MM2K says, they have a long shelf life as well, and lots of playability. So they are really key for the platform. So it's good to see that they're focusing on, these key events as well, sporting events around it and promoting it on, Madden 22. So,
yeah, it's great to see here. And shout out to Blizz as well for the subscription. Appreciate that on compliments of Rock here. Okay, so let's move on down here. The lowdown on High Isle. Discover a brand new Elder Scrolls adventure. The Elder Scrolls Online upcoming chapter has just been announced, and High Isle is now available for pre-purchase. Traverse majestic cliffs, stunning castles, and lively tournament fields as you explore the noble home of the Breton elite, a new location never before seen in an Elder Scrolls game. Part of the legacy of the Bretons is a year-long adventure in High Isle. You must fight to defend the honor of the chivalric culture against the mysterious forces of the Ascendant Lord, not Lord Kenzel,
no,
as he seeks to plunge all of Tamir into chaos here. Or, should I say God? Sorry. High Isle also introduces a brand new way to play with Tales of Tribute, a competitive card game. Pre-purchase now, and you'll get immediate access to the Pale Frost Elk mount and the Pale Frost Elk Fawn pet, in addition to a host of additional rewards at launch. Better yet, if you pre-purchase, there's even more incentive to pre-purchase here for Elder Scrolls fan. The Elder Scrolls Online Collection High Isle, you'll gain instant access to the ESO base game and all previous chapters. Available with pre-purchase now through April the 4th. Wow. So that's a pretty good incentive there if you're even remotely interested in the Elder Scrolls Online. Looks like now if you pre-purchase, you're going to get pretty much like you're going to get the base game and all everything, all previous chapters. Wow.
That's a good purchase option, especially if you haven't jumped into the game at all yet.
Yeah, so it's on the store now. Yeah, the Elder Scrolls Online Collection High Isle CE Collector's Edition. Yeah, and the Pale Frost Elk Fawn Pet, as you said, it says here on the store with pre-purchase until the 4th of April. So
wow,
and as you say, you get immediately in the base game or previous chapters and gain instant access to Pelfrost Elk Mount, blah, 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 at launch. Yeah. It's all on the site now. £64.99 if that in the UK.
Wow. That's awesome. Wow, great. Okay, so moving along here, Far Cry 6. Joseph Collapse. Was Joseph right? Step into the mind of Joseph Seed from Far Cry 5. Playable in co-op and battle your inner demons. Explore a twisted version of Hope County. Fight your former followers and confront your family members. Available now. So that is the, if I remember correctly, the third and final
the trilogy
DLC. For all of the former villains.
You've played the previous DLCs, correct, John?
Yeah.
Are those playable in co-op? Or is this the first one?
Yeah, they're playable in co-op, and you can actually invite friends too. They kind of have like that buddy pass where the person you invite doesn't have to own the game to be able to play along with you. So that's a really great trend that we're starting to see here from Ubisoft, and I think
this is
really it's going to pay off.
Yeah, this is the DLC I was kind of waiting on to play as Joseph Seed. He's one of my favorite villains.
Oh, it gives me the creeps.
Yeah, man.
It really gives me the creeps. Like playing Far Cry 5, whatever. Just really,
Especially the time that it was released at too, right? It was so symbolic of what was going on in, political wise and things like that. So
and any title where you get a very charismatic villain that just happens to be right. Maybe not about, everything, his what do you want to call it? His
approach.
His approach. and end up being correct in the end. Very awesome game.
Yep. So, so a final bit of news here from the Post. Destiny 2. It's a Light of Darkness here. So we've got a trailer that was released here. It says, join the Bungie developers as they discuss the Witch Queen Season of the Risen and Void subclass updates, weapon and crafting more. Oh, look at this. So we've got like a little video here where they're talking about the Witch Queen, this is coming out, I believe, on the 25th of February, the latest expansion.
Yes, according to Tom, what's the name from The Verge, this is one of the biggest expansions that they've ever done. So it's meant to be a cut above all the other sort of DLC and additions they've done. It's meant to be pretty massive.
Yeah, definitely. It looks
it's very interesting the way they've built the game and keep adding to it, and the way they retire some things and then bring them back, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, again, another huge game on the platform. Yeah. I mean, this expansion itself is already clocked in at 1 million pre-orders. I mean, that's like nuts.
Yeah.
And we get to play it, you know what I'm saying, and play it cross-play. That's huge as well.
And even though the game's been out for a while, it still feels as fresh, like in terms of its look, and I mean, it always looks great and stunning, and yeah, I mean, it is a model of how to sustain a game, really, I think.
Yeah, whenever their updates come out, I've never looked at a Destiny 2 update and went, oh man, that's looking dated.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think, but yeah, like look at that there, like that just looks amazing. Bungie did a really great job on the game engine, and for Destiny 2 to be around as long as it have, and still have that massive fan base around it is just truly amazing. We look at this here. I know we had a couple of buffering problems here. Let's see. There we go. Some more. Yeah, it's just awesome. Like this is Destiny 2 is a game I've always meant to really, really get into, but I haven't been keeping up with it. So it's been a little while since I played it. So, but sometimes
there's so much to the game, and then they revamped it a little bit, I guess, to make it easier to jump into, from what I understand. But yeah, there's a lot to it. I need to get into it.
It can be. I think it was quite intimidating. That's why they revamped it, because it is quite intimidating.
Yes.
If you have no idea and you jump into it, you're just like, where do I go? What? You need somebody to go. Oh, what you need to do is go and see that person over there, and then they'll set you up on a story, and then, you know.
But the great thing that they've done is because people like me, where I literally almost lost my kids to how much I played Destiny 1. Like literally, like, Dad, we're hungry, and I'm like, so what? There's tuna in there somewhere.
It's a can opener there.
I literally kind of fell off with Destiny 2. And like Clive said, it was so intimidating getting back in. But what they've done, which I think is smart, is now when you start a game, they infuse the elements of Destiny 1 that are familiar with everyone, and they use that to help guide you and transition to what you got to do in Destiny 2. So now it sounds like now might be the time to hop back in.
Yeah, for sure.
What I will say is with the launch of Witch Queen, when that does come out, Forsaken content will be vaulted. So it means that you'll be able to access sword weapons and armor. But yeah, story stuff, etc., you won't be able to play anymore. So that's one downside of their business model, is the stuff being vaulted, but they do bring it back. So, but in terms of story, if you're trying to catch up with Forsaken, I recommend doing so before they vault it when the Witch Queen launches.
Great point.
Wow. Yep. So that's this week's blog post here. A pretty decent blog post here. We know that we're getting 2 games next week here for sure. My Hero One's Justice 2 and Dynasty Warriors 9.
2 games on the same day. So there you go.
Yeah. Wow. If you can believe it, right?
Yeah.
So a pretty solid post here. And it's very
two brand new games delivering, 2 demos.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Oh, and the DLC as well for Far Cry 6 there. That's a pretty awesome pre-order incentive bonus too for Elder Scrolls Online. So overall, a pretty solid blog posting there for this week. Interesting to see. So moving along here, before we touch upon what blew up on Friday with the Business Insider article, boy, that totally blindsided me. I was streaming all day long, and I kind of like during breaks, I was checking in and I somebody, like, they were talking about Business Insider article, and I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And I heard someone come to one of my streams and say something about deprioritizing. I had no idea. And then finally, at the end of the day, they were reading the article. I'm like, oh my gosh. But regardless, what actually had come out the day before, so on Thursday, and I don't recall anybody picking up on this, at least on social media that I saw. There may have been, but came across this post last night on the Stadia Dev blog. It was posted on Thursday, and it's talking about some of the incentives that were announced in, I believe it was late July, early August at the Google for Games Developer Summit. And that Developer Summit for me was very interesting because it showed that Google has, buckled down and they're making the development process, the porting process, the certification process a lot easier and more streamlined to get games onto Stadia. Now, we all know, it was going to take some time for these incentive and tools to start rolling out. And sure enough, here we are. We've got a blog post here that's talking about it. And it's saying, supporting our developer publisher partners is a core goal for Stadia. And our keynote at the 2021 Google for Games Developer Summit outlined how we'd be increasing the return on their investments. 2 of these incentive programs we announced at the summit are now available to help our current and future partners generate more revenue from our platform. So here's some great incentives here. The first is the Stadia Pro incentive program, and I'm going to highlight it here. Apply for access to add your game to Stadia Pro, where we're giving 70% of monthly program revenue back to participating partners. Earnings are based on player engagement and measured by session days. So going back to that Google for Games Developer Summit, we know like the session days is, so if someone is playing your game, if they open it up 1 time or 20 times in 1 day, that's going to count as one of the session days, right? So it's at least being open or played for that particular day is when, counts towards the way the engagement is being measured. And then they talk about here the improved transactional revenue share program. And this is very interesting. Some nice wording here that might appease some people, but probably not, right?
Probably not.
No, the goalposts are going to be moved here. It doesn't include
the wheels are already moving.
Right? They're already moving here. We can hear the backup sound. Subject to program terms, newly signed games that launch on Stadia through December 2023, right? 2023 can earn 85% transactional revenue share up to $3 million. Thereafter, standard terms apply. So here we go. Any new games that are coming to Stadia and then they're going to launch through December, not of this year, up into next year, right? So almost 2 years. What is that? 23, let's see, 22, 23 months into the future here that you can get 85% of the cut of the revenue up to $3 million. Usually it's that 70-30 split. Here's now another incentive again for, to bring your games to Stadia, earning more money there. And also another newsworthy portion of this article, because I know on Twitter, there was some rhetoric put out there as well. Why is this article or this blog post on the dev even worthy of talking about? Because it's just same, the recycled news supposedly from August of last year. Well, a tit for a tat here. There is new information in here regardless. We did see, and this being particular here is where we've got partners talking about, some of their experiences with this game here. We've launched 2 of our titles right here. Let's see. 2 of our titles into the Stadia Pro program recently. Grime and the Dark Side Detective. Despite being polar opposite in terms of content and genre, both performed well in terms of finances and player reception. Stadia Pro seems to benefit a wide variety of titles regardless of the style or replayability. And they also continue to say here, Stadia Pro has consistently exceeded our expectations on both payout and player engagement. We have an active, passionate community of players for our titles. You know, and this is something I, a few weeks ago, interviewed Yves, the developer, Broken Arms Games, for 100 days, and he spoke about the Stadia Pro program as well, and how well their title has been doing on it. It's exceeded expectations, and he's very, very, very pleased with the results that he's gotten with 100 days being in the program here. We have another quote here. This is from our good friends at Outright Games here. From the outset, Stadia Pro has felt like a natural fit for Outright Games and kids' video games in general. The accessibility of the platform, coupled with Stadia's increased commitment to distributing quality, age-appropriate video games to families, has allowed our titles to thrive in their ecosystem. We have seen a fantastic amount of engagement with our games on Stadia already. Now, remember, Outright Games just started to bring their games to Stadia in August, so they're a relatively new developer bringing their games to the platform with revenue that went above our expectations. So here we go. Here's two companies on the record here in this particular blog post saying, you know, with the Stadia Pro, the revenue that they've received from these games is above what they were expecting. As we expand our portfolio, we will continue to bring more opportunities to play great kids games in the cloud. So, you know, this is another little piece here that was released and posted on the developer blog on Thursday before all the hoopla and shenanigans hit of, you know, people running around with the, you know, the skies falling and the chicken with their heads cut off.
There was my eyes.
Yeah, I think like you're quite right. I mean, you look at, as you say, that's the first observation is look at that date. Yeah, as you say, was it the 3rd of February, right? So it predates that article, and then in this is talking about plans that stretch out, or business models that stretch out to December 2023. Right. So this is not a response to that article.
Exactly.
As you say, this is old information from Google for Games Developer Summit 2021 between July the 12th to July the 13th. You know, but it's just reiterating that and indicating that, you know, there is, you know, their strategy is beyond, you know, right to the, at least in this terms of this business model, at least until 2023. And as I mentioned, you know, yesterday, you don't like do deals for like 100+ games for the next for the next year, and then on December just say, well, that's it now. do you know what I mean? It's like a waste of time. Like you'd wind it down. Like if you were genuinely, you know, you don't just say, oh, we're going to deliver another 100 games, because, you know, it's like, what is the point of delivering a game in December 2022? Do you know what I mean? And then that's it now.
And not just that, Clive, but you don't
crazy.
It's one thing if you got deals, you know, and I know this is the argument on YouTube. The deals were already negotiated, so that's why.
Of course they are.
They already
and then
gave them a Snickers
deals
bar.
now, you know, that's the thing.
But you don't enhance features. We got features coming. You don't do that when you
exactly.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It was good to see in that tweet is they actually they didn't just say, oh no, we've got lots of games, don't worry about that. It was like and features.
But
So
what I'm
extremely
extremely interested in is when they get their game library to they add these 100 games and then they expand to say Brazil or Mexico. That's going to do wonders for them.
Man.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, so when as founders or whoever, you know, if you got Stadia in, you know, November 2019, you had what, 23 games or whatever it was, right?
Yep.
Yeah. two pro game, you know, like Destiny 2,
Exactly.
whatever, you
Yeah.
know, whatever. The end of this year, you're going to be going, as you say, to any new players, whether in the current territories or other territories. You know, what's this Stadia Pro? What's this Stadia all about? Well, we've got a library of over 370 games. If you sign up your pro library, you're going to get, and I predicted probably at least 60 to 70 in the pro library by the end of this year, because there seems to be a net gain. So let's say 70, you know, let's be generous, 70 games. So yeah, you've got a pro library of 70 games and 370 games in the library. Off you go, son. You know, it's
by the third or fourth year. I mean, that's incredible.
It's a very compelling offer. And as I've said it loads of times, and it's because somebody else said it, but I think it's really great. And that's why I don't mind repeating it, is that right now, Stadia is the best it's ever been in terms of.
I love that line. I love it
of its offering, and next month it'll be even better. That is value. You know, that is fact. It just, the library increases, and consistently the pro library has increased as well. So it's like, you know. So we will be here the same time next year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
No doubt there'll be some other article, whatever. And no doubt the same old faces be coming out going, I know I said it was going to die in 2020, right? I know that, right? Well, guess what? And I know I said it was going to die in 2022, right? Yeah, right. But it's definitely going to die. And it's like, whatever.
And you know what, Clive? Just to make two quick points.
You want to go and just move it. You know, it's that
exactly. and that's the slyness of this article. I remember I was just talking to a buddy, a dedicated device friend, and he keeps telling me, stop fighting reality. Stop fighting your fate. Stadia's dead. So I went on Twitter and I grabbed all of his quotes where he said that every year, and I just highlighted the dates. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait for you to be saying this next year. The slyness of this article, though, and I think it's purposeful, because as Clive perfectly illustrated, and you gotta see his video after this if you haven't, I'm telling you. It's not so much the things that are being covered that are the issue. I mean, even though they're old, but it's the words and the tone. And I think part of the slyness in this article is that they realize what Clive just said. Everyone's saying it's dying and it's not dead. At some point in time, people are going to say, what the hell are you talking about? This thing hasn't died. So we're no longer using Stadia as dead. We're using Stadia has been deprioritized. You see what I'm saying? And that helps you pivot to the new talking point to where, it's still around, but it's not as good as Xbox or PlayStation 5 because it's been deprioritized. You know what I mean? So,
you know, old facts and new perspectives, you know, basically just regurgitated. In many ways.
You're right. We discussed, you know, like I've said, you know, the article could have been written a week after the closure of SG&E, other than the fact that they revealed some information about potential partners that they're working with, as they said they would be. You know, that is it. Don't bother reading the article. That's all you need to know. You know, company delivers on its promises to, you know, to explore its new business strategy. That's
right. Yeah, exactly.
You know, as you know, good. I'm glad they're making progress.
Like what was discussed earlier, you know, they discussed that on the couch sitting there. That you know, they were going to do white label stuff, and they had all these things planned.
At E3 2019 when he's talking you know, Phil's talking with Jeff Keighley. But the thing is, like, people seem to forget that or want to make it like this is brand new news.
It was very explicit. It was very explicit. Like, I played the clip yesterday, but Phil Harrison was very open about it. Like you know, Jeff made some suggestions. He went, I could see that's a possibility. He offered. It wasn't. Phil Harrison offered, because he said they don't even have to come to our site.
Right.
They could come to the publisher's, and that wasn't so Jeff going, oh, what? So they could go to the publisher's site. No, that was Phil Harrison himself saying, even go to other people's sites to play the game using our technology. In July 2019, he was talking about that. Absolutely. It was always, it may have not been the core strategy, but it was always a possibility of, look, we've got this tech, how are we going to do it? And clearly their initial strategy didn't pan out quite as well as they wanted. So they adapted it, changed it, focused on different areas, and that's fine, and that
More
makes
focused,
sense, you know. So that's
Yeah.
the key thing.
Was it about a year after that AT&T did the Dark Knight or whatever it was, the Batman game?
So that
Yeah,
was
that was
mid year, wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, that was,
of
yeah,
2021.
yeah.
So
I was
that
gonna say
was
a
one
year
of the
and a half or
first.
something.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
one of the first deals, obviously post SG&E closure. But you know, they were already talking to Bungie. And they've been talking to Bungie pre-launch, because Bungie themselves have said, you know, Stadia's been an absolute godsend during the pandemic, because it's allowed us to continue developing the game. And this is on all platforms, not just on Stadia, but the ability to tweak and work on the game whilst working remotely. Stadia has powered that. And I think it was Jason Shriver who was saying potentially that's why the tech is of interest to Bungie, not necessarily just to sell their games or as a platform for their game, but also as a developer platform, a developer tool, because they've really seen the benefit of working remotely, and yet having this sort of amazing cloud tech that allows you to kind of, you know, the people don't have to have giant developer kits in their homes. You know, they can just do it all in the cloud. So
and we even see like developers like you know, the people making Sky Climbers, they're going to use that new testing slice of the server blade for their upcoming alpha as well. So you know,
Stadia channels, isn't they call it?
Channels. So it's just like, you know, like we've all said, this is Google are doing the things that they've always said that they were going to be doing. And it's pretty much like at this point, it's a damned if you do, a damned if you don't type deal, where no matter what they say, whether you know, oh, we're going to do this, well, there's always something wrong with it, or you didn't tell us enough, or it wasn't this time, right? So you can understand as to why they keep things so tight-lipped,
Close to the vest,
close to the vest here. And this was amazing on Friday to see that this tweet come out from, you know, the Stadia brand account here, is, you know, just telling you, say, if you hear one thing, hear this: the Stadia team is working really hard on a great future for Stadia and cloud gaming. So yes, Stadia and their B2B cloud gaming, right? You know, this isn't, they're not hiding anything here.
And
right?
the language is like, it's encouraging, really, from Stadia, is the language in that tweet is very strong. It's very aggressive. It's, you know, there's almost emotion in it.
I agree with that.
If you hear one thing, hear this. You know, that is quite a bold statement. Basically, they're saying there is a lot of nonsense right now. And we are not standing here, you know, let us be very clear. The stage is not going anywhere. We're working really hard, and there's a great future for it. Carry on. You know, carry on.
Exactly.
And so it was interesting to see. Now, I know, obviously they're limited in, and obviously it did kick off, you know, annoyingly so. It was like my eyes rolled back to my head, and it was like, oh God, here we go again. For God's sake, why did we do this? And then all this nonsense is then amplified, and like a bad facsimile, you know, it just gets worse and worse. It's like you know, those sort of bit racist, but Chinese whisper was we used to say back in the day. You know, it's like it just gets worse and worse and worse, and the story gets bigger and bigger, and you suddenly get people going, Stadia rebranded. Not even the bad faith article said that. But that's how bad the facsimile has got.
Exactly.
Exactly like growing up, what it was called here was like the telephone game. You know, if you're in kindergarten or in grade 1, you whisper to someone something. Hey, I like your glasses. By the time it comes around to 20 other people, it's completely different. And so misconstrued. And it's just like, come on, people. I don't know what your ultimate goal is here. I'm trying to make something look bad. You know, I guess, you know, like we kind of talked, you built your whole thing around it. So you're going to try any any pivot you can, except saying
Yeah,
from
if
it's
you
dead, now it's
yeah,
deprioritized.
if from day one said this is disaster, it's never going to work,
right.
right?
Yeah.
If that's how you've
And
stated
that's
it,
the hill you died
right?
on.
Yeah, exactly. So and plus you factor in, as I say, I've talked about it off camera, the negativity bias that exists within headlines and
Exactly.
stuff like that. Generally,
Yep.
it's a fact of nature. We can't help that. It's pre-programmed in our brains to be attracted to negativity. You factor that in, and then these sort of tech blogs or whatever they've made these statements. It's very hard. You very rarely, unless they're forced to legally, you very rarely see newspapers go, "Oh man, yeah, sorry,
If there's a retraction,
we were
it's
wrong.
on the last
My
page.
bad. Yeah, my
Yeah.
interpretation and and of this was completely wrong, and I got it wrong, and I'm really sorry." That never happens unless they're taken to court and told you need to print a retraction, and that's expensive. And then that retraction appears buried on page 6, where the original accusation was on the headline newspaper. You know what I mean?
Right.
So people never
Nobody sees that page.
go, I was wrong. My interpretation was wrong, because that would undermine the attention and authority that they pretend they have, and that's what, and I mentioned it briefly yesterday, and I'll try not to go off on one, but it really grinds my goats that people continue to follow people who are consistently wrong. You might like their opinion, right? That's fine, but and hey, I'm not going to judge you for following people just because you like their opinion, but this is how I operate in life. If that opinion is consistently incorrect, so when I say they're entitled to their opinion but factually is consistently incorrect, I'm going to doubt the veracity or doubt their knowledge in that subject matter, and probably not follow them, because they are not offering me anything back. They're not enlightening me, and I don't understand how people can sit in front like and listen to somebody who is consistently wrong. But because they like it. And it's the cult of personality that they're listening to, not the facts and information.
You hit it earlier, Clive. People love whimsical conversation. They don't like fact-based conversations. Whatever gets them riled up emotionally, that's what they're attached to. That's why all these silly shows, the reality shows with silly people doing silly things, are so caught on. That's just translated to what you're seeing here on Twitter. It just happens to be about video games. Because if you pivot from the facts and you go where the facts take you, what's being suggested, without all that, like you said, Clive, the silly wording, what's being suggested in this article shouldn't make you feel bad at all, because we've already seen it happen and we've already seen it work. Where? With Microsoft and Xbox. There were years where Xbox did not have the games that people wanted to play. They didn't invest in their studios, and they were lauded for it for years. What did they do? Satya and Phil doubled down on their white labeling efforts. PlayFab, Havoc. Hell, I'm going to even argue that Minecraft, because it's beyond just a game. It's now in libraries and coffee shops and everything. You could consider that a white labeling situation. They doubled down on their white labeling deal. And what happened? Now Microsoft is making more money this generation than they've ever had the previous 2 generations. So it's just the fact of, you take something that's worked somewhere else and simply slap the Stadia name on it and put a negative connotation to it. Nobody kicks the tires on it. Everyone just puts their hands in their heads and they panic. You know, so
it's what people want to hear, and so they go with it. But that's fine. If that's the way you want to live your life, fine, whatever. But I'm going to follow people who are going to expand my mind.
Exactly.
And if they are consistent, consistent in their observations, are consistently proved to be correct, then I'm going to put value.
I want to be
in what they have to say.
I think we all want to be informed.
I'm a man of science.
I don't want to.
That's how
I don't want to just be entertained. I want to be informed. But there's those that just.
I want to be educated. I want to be informed, educated, and entertained. That.
If I get all 3, that's great. I can get steak, potatoes, and a glass of wine. I'm happy.
Just quickly on Anthony, I've got my metaphors muddled up there. It gets my goat, and it grinds my gears. Ended up becoming it grinds my goats.
He's God. He can make up whatever he wants to say.
Yeah. I'm mashing my metaphors together. Yeah,
So
well
that's
spotted.
And
so
I'll tell you,
the follow. Oh, go ahead. No, so go
I
ahead.
was
Go
saying,
ahead. SVG.
just something that bothers me about listening to a bunch of talking heads about Stadia is that, you know, if you're going to be critical of something, make sure it comes from a personal place of experience for that product or that thing.
Yeah.
Don't be
Yes.
overly critical, because
Yes.
overly critical isn't a proper standpoint, like on something, because anything can be bad, can have a certain drawback or whatever.
Look,
you know, and the more you listen, the less their words mean when you start to figure out that they're wrong or whatever.
Yeah, right. Stadia is not a panacea. It's not for it's not for everybody. You know, and that's perfectly all right. Just I mean, if it doesn't have the games that you want, that's okay.
Right.
You know, and you can say that, well, it's not for me. That's fine.
Nobody's pushing it on you.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like,
We're
no
not
one's
saying
forcing
no
it.
one's saying you have to like it, and if you don't, you're a complete fool. You know, it's like, well, fine. If it's not, you know, there's plenty of
Not
things
for you.
that I don't like. It's not for me, but other people love them. You know, fine. But it is for some people. It fits a gaming lifestyle lovely, and they're very happy with it. And then when you factor in the low entry level that we have now in terms of choice, which we didn't necessarily have before. So thanks to cloud gaming in general, if you're really into PC games and you want lots and lots of the PC games, which is fine, not for me, but then, hey, there's GeForce now, you know, it works, it's great. Or, you know, some game, you want some Xbox exclusives or whatever, that's fine. You've got Games Pass. I mean, you know, but you kind of spend 20 or 30 quid on subscriptions and you're pretty well sorted in terms of gaming choice. And that's a pretty low level of entry. And you can always switch one off if you feel that it's not delivering enough of, you know, content for you. And that's perfectly fine. But you cannot, just because it doesn't deliver for you, doesn't necessarily mean the service, whatever it is delivering very, very well for other people. And, you know, let them enjoy that.
So Lloyd here in the chat, look, the big argument is that big multi-platform AAA games won't come. Okay, there are thousands of games released every year, and maybe 10 really big AAAs released every other year. Okay, so right, so let's just say if out of, let's say for just sake, we're going to say 10 come out a year. Let's say 5 or 6 don't come to Stadia. Okay, well, you know, if you really want to play them, you're not locked in. Like nobody is ever saying that you can't go somewhere else to enjoy or play these games. You know, feel free. It's
exactly.
Like,
I think you're right, and Lloyd's right. You know, I think there's a sort of a miss sort of conception of like how many AAA, you know, people. Well, they've got you know how many AAA games there are. They're not that many, ultimate, really. Exactly. And if you look at the last year and you go, okay, well, was Resident Evil Village a AAA game? Yeah, absolutely. Right. You know, was Far Cry 6? I was going to do it in order. Yeah, we'll get there.
Sorry.
Is FIFA 22 a AAA game in terms of its size and impact? Absolutely. Is Madden 22?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Far Cry 6, you know, and people go, well, that's Ubisoft. That doesn't discount it.
Exactly.
Right. Like that argument is like, oh yeah, but that's Ubisoft. It doesn't count because all Ubisoft comes to the game. That's why they did the deal. That's why they have the partnership, to guarantee at least whatever happens as a minimum, you know Ubisoft are going to be delivered throughout the year. AAA games, and they'll come to the platform. That's your sort of your plimsoll line of the boat. You know, that's your kind of your limit in a way. And you think as long, well, at least we've got those guarantees. So not, you know, no, there's no Battlefield, you know, no, there's and then, you know, so there are games that would be, you know, would no doubt benefit the platform because they're recognizable names. And of course it would be amazing. And no doubt, you know, I don't think the Stadia team, I've said it before, the partnership team are going, no, we don't want that.
Right.
You know, EA aren't ringing them up and going, we've got Battlefield. Do you want? Nah. we're all right, thanks, mate. We're sorted for
Right.
games. Yeah, you leave it, mate. Yeah, maybe next year. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that's not happening. You know, that is not
Right.
happening.
And
But
do you remember
else to
the
be done,
big
aren't there?
right? Do you remember the big hullabaloo over the Grand Theft Auto remakes and then also
Yeah.
Battlefield not coming? But then when the games came out, guess what? Everyone was crapping. Oh, the GTA remakes are crap. There's so many bugs, this and that. And Battlefield, oh, it wasn't what we wanted. You know, it's still being developed. So maybe it might end up being like a MotoGP 21 thing where several months later, the game does come, you know, to the platform. You know, and I think it's just people look for that, you know, once you give them the facts, then they start going, well, I want to own my games. Well, guess what? You know, then we get into the thing, well, you really never own games anyways, because you're just buying a license to play them.
Even
and
if
you know,
buy
so
the disc, you need the
right,
update,
yeah, exactly.
the day one patch. So
So
welcome to
the
welcome to the 21st century. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The days of even Nintendo Switch using, you know, the cartridges, you still have updates. There's many games that you still have to download the other half of the game or levels onto as well. But regardless, neither here nor there. I wanted to touch on this little thread here that was posted the following day, so Saturday, by Erin here. I did have her LinkedIn profile pulled up that I was going to bring up here, but it looks like someone messaged me on LinkedIn, and I don't know what it says, so I don't want to make it live here. So Erin, she works over at Google AI. She is game designer research at Google AI here. And this was an amazing thread talking about.
I had to get the dictionary out.
Yeah, misinformation in terms of censorship versus the discussion is a false dichotomy and a reduction into meaningless. So you always get the people saying, oh, well, we have freedom of speech. We should be able to say whatever we want. Well, you know, to a certain degree, but when it gets damaging and is just outright a lie, people have to stand up and say something about it, right? You know, it goes both ways here. And this is an amazing thread where she talks about, you know, people trying to use that, well, the freedom of speech context around, you know, surrounding weaponizing, you know, the things that they say, your motivation behind it, and the damaging effects. And I've seen people in the chat here already talking about it as well. You know, it's like in this day and time, information spreads at a lightning pace. Whereas I've got to go back further now, maybe not 20, 25, 30 years ago, right? You know, it was the newspaper people mostly got their information from. It was the next day. It was magazines a month later. Well, now here we are. Someone's posting something and within seconds, it's around the world. And people not doing fact checking, not getting the information correct, misrepresenting, you know, the sources and highlighting, you know, in this particular BI article, they're saying about like one person estimates 20%, right? So this is one person who knows who they are, and it's just a guess anyways, but people took that information and ran with it.
That's verbatim as well, without without context. We don't know who that person is or was, where they were within the company. You know, if you ask me something about my company in an area I wasn't sure, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I might go, if pushed, I don't know, not a lot, 20%. I don't know. It's a meaningless number without context,
without the entire context.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of pointless. And 20% of what? Effort. How do you define effort? Do you know what I mean?
What you're measuring, right?
Yeah. What are you measuring? And okay, if the tech side is moved under Google Cloud and the Stadia consumer side is moved under the Google subscriptions, which is what we're led to believe, and Phil Harrison's reporting into the head of Google subscriptions, then a lot of the tech work, for the underlying tech that drives Stadia is being done under the Google Cloud section. So do they mean that, okay, then you know, part of that 80% is based there is working on the tech. Well, that's not a bad thing, is
Right,
it?
exactly,
I mean, if part of that 80% or a majority of that 80% is really drilling down that tech, making that tech work really well so that it is something that they can sell business to business, hey, guess who benefits without even trying? Stadia. You know, that's what I kind of mentioned. It doesn't require much effort to maintain Stadia if the tech is constantly being worked on, because it's a valuable tool in your Google Cloud strategy, you know, to sell business to business. You know, that tech, you want to improve it, you want to invest in it. And Google Cloud, if that's where it sits, has a bigger budget, has more money. It wants to get a bigger return on its investment. So we'll invest more to get that bigger return from business to business. All along, the store just sitting there, all it's got to do is add games to this amazing tech. That's all it's got to do. So it does, you know, so if only 20% effort is on that, that's fine, because we don't know whether the other 80% is focused on the tech side, you know. So it's a sort of a meaningless number without really understanding who said it, where it's coming from, and what they actually mean.
When it comes to this, when it comes to the sourcing, you know, just per my business experience, and again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. Clive and the panel, they have theirs as well. 25 plus years corporate 500 experience, hiring and firing managers and dealing with low level people who are not connected to the business decision side, but you'll see them outside gossiping all day. We're going to close down tomorrow. You know what I mean? You can hear them in the lunchroom saying stuff like this. I get a feel, just off my experience, that the people that Business Insider may have been told this stuff, and they just may have used, you know, sly wording to make it seem worse than what it was. But I get a feel that the people that they talked to were low-level employees, and this is stuff that all low-level employees would get. Like, if I'm a low-level employee, I would know that Phil Harrison was moved to another place, because I can see it on the org chart. I can see it in my contacts information. Also, the 20% is probably a guess, or it's probably just synonymous to their workload. Maybe their workload changed to 20%. But the thing that stuck out to me the most, which doesn't make, and I talked about, I won't do it here because I talked about it for like 19 hours on my live stream to where my voice is hoarse. But the thing that really stuck out here is that this article went down the path of saying Google didn't, or Stadia didn't have the appetite to hire more inside people to do more inside development. Of course you can't. When you synergize a group of people in the United States, you have X amount of time that you can't replace them. So of course there's no appetite for it, because they don't want to get sued by the state. There's state compensation involved, unemployment insurance involved. So of course you've moved on. You've said to the states or wherever locale that you're working in, I don't need these people. So I'm not going to, so you can pay them money or all these other state benefits can kick in. I'm just going to operate with what I got now because we're going on a different path.
Yeah, you can't fire. You're allowed, so in that context, you're allowed to recruit, but the roles have to be fundamentally different.
Exactly.
Roles. Yeah.
Yep. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Like if they got rid of half of their workload, say if they had 100 developers and they cut it down to 50, they can't go over 51. If 2 developers leave after they're synergized and they're down to 48, okay, they can hire 2 more to get it back up to 50. But what you've told the state is, look, all we need is 50 developers. In this case, they got rid of all of the developers. Yeah. So it's just little stuff like that that made me say, hold on. I really don't think that these were people high up the food chain connected to the current business decisions. You know what I mean? It was just funny to me.
Can we go back to that positivity story about the developers seeing benefit from the Stadia Pro?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you want me to bring that back up?
Yeah. Because
hold on.
Things on that I just thought were worth highlighting. You know, particularly that Acapora Games in particular. So one of the things when Google announced this new revenue model, you know, one of the people go, oh, well, different games that means we'll all end up getting the same sort of game, the ones that have like ongoing retention,
Right.
and so it'll lean all towards one type of game in Stadia Pro, because only developers that develop games that have that. This is completely undermined by this statement from Akapara Games here, because they actually say polar opposite in terms of content and genre, both performed well in terms of finances and player reception. So one of the legitimate fear, I think, or legitimate concern that was probably raised when they first announced it was, would this favor one type of game over the other, etc.
Right.
This, albeit it's one quote, and a lark does not a summer make. But so let's just put that caveat around it. It is interesting and indicative that here is a publisher going, two very different games are delivering to us very well under this business model on Stadia Pro. So I just think that's interesting. And yes, this is old. As you said, the business model announcement that they're just reiterating is old information. But what is new is the outcome of that game.
Success,
which is very similar to the other articles that we've seen, where it is old information and there are some outcomes of that information which is new, but in this case it's very positive. And I mentioned as well off camera, remember in 2020 there was some unnamed developer said, whose game didn't get onto Stadia, said Stadia wasn't offering enough money. The headlines that ran with that is Stadia doesn't offer enough money to developers, right? And that all based from one quote of an unnamed developer of an unknown game that didn't end up on Stadia. So we don't know whether the game was just a pile of pants. We didn't know whether the developer's pants or the greedy or whatever. So we don't know the context, and yet reams and reams of articles were written about this. We have now here the same scenario where two publishers, so an even more improved scenario if you want veracity, if veracity is your key. We have two examples of two publishers saying, we really like the Stadia business model. It is delivering. It is working. Where's the articles?
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, because you know what the rhetoric's going to be. Well, they got paid to say that. Of course, they're going to be.
Sorry, my bad. My
right.
bad.
You got to move those goals. That's right.
Of course, they're going to say that's in their interest. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right.
Here, in the same way, you can't be bitter. You can't be bitter because your game didn't get picked up by Stadia, right?
Right. Yeah.
Here's the comical thing about that, and why we've showed a slide of Aaron Hoffman John, because she was making fun of this. We've been here before with Business Insider. You got to remember, Business Insider was one of the very first article writers that wrote something about Stadia where they contradicted themselves in the article and then came up with this theme. Well, Stadia is not getting the indie games that people are going to want because they just don't know how to talk to people. And by the end of that year, by my count, 41 out of the 61 pro games were indie games, which just shuttered down that whole article. The whole article fell to pieces by the end of the year. I just think we're back here again. Business Insider, they've done this with PlayStation. Business Insider has a tendency of taking facts, but as Clive alluded, using sly words to make you look at that information and believe something that may not align with the truth. And if you take that Business Insider article at face value as far as the tone, you have to ignore what you just read from that Stadia developers note. And another thing I find ironic is that they don't talk about the Stadia developers keynote or any of that at all in this article.
Of course not.
So how old is the information? How reliable is it? How low level are your sources? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. The point is, the sources delivered. The sources delivered what they wanted to hear, and so effectively to fit the narrative, and they ran with that. rather
No,
than,
not
you know,
nice.
give us any greater context, because they knew if
Exactly.
they kicked it anymore, it would just probably look a bit foolish and fall
Yeah.
apart. But they know the audience is out there for that, and it works.
Yes.
You know,
exactly.
and it works.
Yep,
And and you know, the trouble is though, it's the world we live in.
Yeah.
And you know, it's all right for us to say, oh yeah, but you know, the article lacked veracity, or it's old news and it's just put a different spin on it, or it's regurgitating a similar opinion from a year later just to keep things, because it's ironic that it came out roughly the same week, 1 year after,
Right.
which is why
yeah.
I made a video on the 1st of February for my members specifically, because no one was going to do a video or write an article, I thought, about this, because actually what Stadia have been doing is quietly getting on and doing what they said they would do 1 year ago. And so all those people who said that it's all over can hardly, without, as I said, admitting that they were wrong, hardly write an article, you know, saying it's all over again or whatever, or that they got it wrong, because that's not how it works. However, Business Insider clearly, I think it was an anniversary thing on that notion, saw an opportunity. But as we said, it was a lot of old information with a few extra facts thrown in. And yeah, so it was just interesting that the timing that it came out, just to sort of, as I say, just perpetuate that sort of myth of, you know, death.
I'm sure it was calculated. They wanted to release that, you know, at the time they did and the day that they did as well. But what I find really powerful and really hits home that Erin says here, and she goes, "I'm quite frankly disgusted with fellow technologists unwilling to do the work of understanding the mechanisms of human communication and their own responsibility in this space. We can innovate against this, but instead we often make things worse." So she touches upon here that people in the stature or in the standing in the community, in the world, as reporters, as technologists, you have a responsibility to report factual things to the audience, right? And I don't know what's happened, but for whatever reason now, this sensationalistic type of reporting and trying to get, you know, the most views or clicks or sound the craziest, that's what's number one. It doesn't matter if it's factual or what the implications are. It's just all about, look at me, I'm first, look at this, read this, oh my god, can you believe it, you know? And nobody goes back and like we talked about before and reads the retractions or reads the I'm sorries. It's people in this place of ownership and leadership out there, that it's up to them to get these things right and to report honestly instead of doing this, you know.
It is. We've created this. Sorry, we've you know, society's created this, or the internet and everything has created this world of such fast pace that it is a race to who can be first.
Yes,
at the expense of testing the veracity of what it is you're reporting, and that filters down even into our, you know, into smaller communities as well, at every level. Because I even know people, you know, within our community who report things. They are so desperate. Even, you know, we of course we do. We want to be the first. We discovered that news story, and in our desperation to be that first, you know, I'm guilty of that as well. To, you know, to be first, I've got it. I've got the scoop. You know, that's what happens is that genuine journalism that exists, because we're not journalists, we're just fanboys, but we want that scoop. We want a kind of thing, we discovered it first on this obscure site in a, you know, in Spanish or whatever that nobody else had seen, or you know, and we picked up, and whatever it is, we want to be first. But I think journalists certainly have a duty of testing the veracity of the story they've got before rushing to print, as it were. But that, you know, that desperation to be first with the story is often at the expense of factual accuracy, and that is a crying shame. But that's the world we've got in here. But the thing is, Google lives in that world. You know, we know the rules of the world, as it were. We know the rules of the internet and of Twitter and whatever. And I mentioned it, you know, yesterday that it is an issue. The perception has always been an issue. And, you know, whilst you can always ignore low level inaccuracies and nonsense and, you know, people on YouTubers and getting their clicks and all that, you know, you could just write them off and whatever. It's all low level. But it's that constant, as I said, drip, drip, drip of the memes and the negativity that slowly over time just builds and builds, because and you know, and it becomes difficult to change that perception. Now, and I don't think the answer is playing whack-a-mole, because as I mentioned, you know, yesterday, it's a kind of becomes you get stuck in a feedback loop. And as I said, who's the idiot? The moles for popping their heads up, or you for just standing there whacking them down when perhaps you should, you know, eradicate the lawn a bit. You know what I mean? It's so what I think Stadia, they do need to communicate more, and I don't mean necessarily. It's about the quality of that communication is the key. They don't need to be defensive. They need to talk about the good things that Stadia offers, and they need to just occasionally, you know, have an interview, as I mentioned, in you know, with a tech blog, a big tech blog, or a newspaper, not a newspaper, you know, like a, you know, like I said, Protocol or Games Industry Biz, whatever, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Just drop that in there, and then everybody runs with the story because it's come from a decent source within Google, so they have to be reasonably senior, and everybody runs with it. And it just helps fill that vacuum that, unless they do that, is filled by nonsense and the reiteration of sort of bad memes and all this kind of stuff. So I just think somehow they just need to be slightly more on the front foot without over promising. And, you know, we've seen it before. There are interviews with Jack Booser, you know, who mentioned already, you know, already we've got, you know, 400 deals signed. Way into 2023, whatever. We expect to deliver 100, you know, 200 games over the next 2 years. Hey, guess what? That's what they're doing, you know, because this was back in December 2020. So, you know, they're delivering on that. So and interviews like that are really useful. Like, you know, we are pursuing the Google Cloud streaming tech with business to business partners, and we've got some exciting things coming up, but obviously we can't tell you about them, but and that will only help benefit the underlying state, you know, Stadia. Just little things like that. Just every so often. It doesn't have to be to the gamers. It doesn't have to be to us. I don't think we need a connect, you know. But they need to seed the opinion leaders every so often, plant the little seeds in there just to sort of say, hey, look, we're doing stuff, because they are doing stuff, but they're just not sharing it. They don't have to share the information. They don't have to share the detail, but just share that, hey, we're doing stuff, so that they don't have to do a tweet that goes, Stadia is very much alive, because everybody knows it's alive because there was an article that got shared a load of times about some stuff they're doing. You know, that's all they need to do, I think.
And eventually, over the years, I thought Stadia was dead comments will fade away,
ridiculous.
right?
It looks more ridiculous.
And
they won't bother because it looks more foolish. But while that vacuum is there, it doesn't look so foolish to outsiders.
I am just very happy that the response Stadia got at first, all the misinformation and lies that people were spreading, I'm glad that is over. But it's sad that an article can come out with old information with a new perspective spin on it and get people wound up again. But Stadia is not going anywhere. They did 2 things that were amazing: the technology and breaking down the barriers to get it back into gaming for somebody. And those 2 things will sell this for a while yet to come. I don't know what their projection was and how far they didn't, or how they didn't reach it, but 25% isn't that bad to me.
No.
And
if you look at it,
only going to grow.
Half cup, half full type deal, right? They achieved 75% of that goal, which is pretty impressive. So if we're going to take that 750,000 user base in 2020, at the end of 2020 as being fact, right? let's see, we're now a year, we're 13, 14 months after
Yes.
that. So
Yep.
it's probably safe to assume the user base being somewhere over the million mark, right? Something like that. That would be a safe estimate. I know Jack's done some estimates based upon data and extrapolation and things like that. So I really think that seems fair. And for a cloud gaming service, again, like MM2K says, we know that 1% to 2%, right, of the market share, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know that million user base is, although you'll see people posting, Xbox has this many million users, Switch has this many million, PlayStation. Well, sure, they've all had that brand that's built it up over the last 20, 30, 40, how many ever years. Of course,
I just say this,
like
getting the first Xbox, 1 or 2 years into Xbox, I didn't have as many games as I have on Stadia right now.
Oh yeah, no
I mean,
way. Yeah.
I mean, and then when they open up to Mexico or Brazil or something, all those people just overnight are going to have access to about 100 pro games or whatever. And I mean, it's going to be amazing for the platform.
And it's going to take the time. People say, well, why didn't they expand earlier? They've got to build up that library, right? They've got to build up that base.
I mean, look, clearly they missed their targets. That's why they've, pivoted on their business strategy back in the site and made that announcement in February 2021. And so clearly they didn't expand as fast as they thought it would. Now that can be a number of things. The marketplace not ready for it. There's a lot of cynicism or whatever, stuff like that. The tech is ready for it. The internet's average internet speeds, I still see people on Twitter go, it'll never work because not people have enough decent internet. And it's like, really, plenty of people have quite enough. I don't have gigabit or anything like that. But I have, like 50 megabits per second. It is. Yeah. I was playing Dirt 5 yesterday. It looks amazing. It is so fast. It's so responsive. It looks amazing. Not an issue. 50 megabits per second. That on my LGC one looks awesome. So all that is nonsense. So the tech is ready. The internet speeds are ready. I can quite see why Google, as technologists, think, well, everybody's going to love this, aren't they? So I can see an over optimism in their kind of figures when they were planning. But I think that the penetration in terms of people, they didn't get through enough or whatever. So that could have been the message, whether people are ready for it or not, a cynicism, the loyalty to existing gaming brands, all that kind of stuff. Whatever it is, they just didn't reach the market growth they expected to be in the first year, to then think, because they would have plotted out, okay, so in the first year, we'll have 1 million concurrent users. In the second year, it'll be 2. In the third year, it'll be 3 million concurrent users. We'll invest in our own party, games now. So in 3 years, we've got an instant 3 million players. So it makes that investment worthwhile. Well, if you're missing it by 25% in your first year, exponentially, that you're going to be well short in your third or fourth year. And suddenly that heavy investment in developing your own game, looking over your shoulder and seeing Amazon just spend $500 million and F up, basically. And that on that side of it, you're going, oops. Then looking over your other shoulder and seeing Xbox spend $7.8 billion on Bethesda as a shortcut to guarantee, basically to bolster their first party studios. Basically, that's the cost. That's Microsoft going, that is the cost of having games guaranteed for your service. Google are going, actually, we're not hit our targets. Oh my God, maybe this isn't the best strategy yet. Maybe we're not there yet. But as discussed back in July 2019, one of the things that we were talking about is making this tech available business to business to kind of support that and to we've got amazing tech here. And so you think, where is the value in this tech? And the value in the tech is keep improving it so that it's the best tech that there is out there, and then finding imaginative ways that you can use it. And that includes business to business as well as a consumer front. And as I said before, it doesn't take a lot to maintain the consumer front, as long as the tech is being constantly developed. And if you
Right.
are you're doing business deals with business to business, you're going to be constantly developing the tech. So it's the tech of choice. It's the platform of choice in the cloud. So yeah, so I can see the change, why they made those changes potentially. And, you know, eventually the market will catch up. But as you say, it's going to take time. It's not, you know, people often aren't ready for tech. We've seen it so many times, you know, some tech comes out and people just, you know, I can see the technologists saying, this is an amazing idea. Everyone's going to love it. And then they deliver it and people go, oh, why would I want that?
Yeah. Well, before
glasses
GFN
with information and a camera. Oh, wait a minute. You mean to go like filming everybody? Like, I bet Google thought Google Glass was amazing. I thought it was amazing. I thought, wow, imagine that. Like, yeah. But no, the public going, whoa, 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 wait a minute. We don't want to be filmed, or we want to, you know, I don't think they've thought about that angle.
Yeah.
However, they pivoted and thought, well, there is a use for this business to business and blah, blah, blah. And they adapted it or whatever. And they are now planning to bring out augmented reality glasses and stuff. They're refocusing it. You know, maybe the audience is ready. So it's a slow progress, you know. And I think if you accept that, you're going to have fun. You know, got 2 games coming next week.
Right. Well, you know, just like we know, Lloyd's in the chat here. Lloyd and Bill said on Stadia Cast, right? It's going to be a slow burn. I think we've all really said that, you know, the people that, you know, are really like, take the time to do the research and be informed and realistic about it is cloud gaming isn't going to take over overnight, which people are afraid of, right? It's going to be 5-10 years before, you know, people start to really, really pick up. We look at that, you know, same with Steam, with digital games. You know, at first everybody hated that with games being digital. Now it's accepted. You see more sales for digital games versus physical box games. So people have now come to accept that change. They're done resisting it, right? So now this is just something else that they're just going to have to get used to. Many developers have said, and it doesn't even have to be Stadia specific, about, you know, the benefits and the features of developing the cloud. You know, like we talked about Bungie having, you know, developed for a certain, just, you know, not so many different devices. You know, you can play your games on your iPhone, your Android, the tablet, the TV, whatever, and you're going to get all that same fidelity and experience that you would expect across all platforms there. So
I described it as like coastal erosion. You know, you're just staring at it. You know, you're going to notice it's just a slow type of thing. But in 3-4 years, you go back, you go, where's my cliff face? You know, where it's you know, it's taken over, but it's just, as you say, it's a slow drip, drip, drip.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I've seen it mentioned a couple of times in the chat here, and I've got Victor's highlighted here. You know, just a month ago, we were talking CES and how awesome it was about, you know, the app coming to millions of TVs, you know, opening up the market. You know, we've got those rumors and also, you know, certifications for the different companies expanding, you know, Japan, Mexico, Brazil,
Victor's right.
Australia.
Victor's right. I mean, for me, the TV, the smart app on the TV is, you know, fundamental. And it's the end of this year that you'll see that, because that's when people will start buying the models that have this on. And it's Sony, it's it'll be Samsung, it's all the other Google TV TVs that have the Google TV as their kind of application. It's the LGs, you know. And as we've mentioned before, you know, if people are curious and see the app or whatever, or it's stuck on the box and they have what is this Stadia thing? And then they're presented with 370 games. And for a month, you can try 50 to 60 games.
Right.
That's very compelling. And it, you know, it's aimed at, you know, people who haven't, you know, who've decided not to spend 500 quid on a box. You know, so it's opening up a whole market, you know, and that's the key thing.
Well, inevitably, I think inevitably, I think that everything is going to end up going to the cloud just for one main reason, and that is taking hardware out of the equation.
Yeah.
For most people,
Right. Of course, yeah.
And it's a great selling point for the TV companies. So they're going to labor that point, you know, that you can play, you know, GFN or Stadia on the thing, because they know a massive segment of their core audience likes playing games. So, you know, the fact that the TVs are gaming ready, with, you know, and you know, hey, it'll make your Xbox games look amazing or your PlayStation 5 games look amazing, but also the fact that they don't need the advantage, they don't need people to have an Xbox or a PlayStation, is even more an incentive for the TV manufacturers, except for Sony, of course, who would love you to have a PlayStation 5. But
I don't have to worry about yields.
If you're LG, you think, well, it doesn't matter if people have not got a you know, PlayStation 5 and Xbox, because now they can play games anyway. And this is a real, you know, this is a no cost selling point of my you know, piece of entertainment equipment. You know, that's it's amazing. I think it's gonna make a massive difference, and you'll start to see it, I think, by the end of this year, when people start having those sort of you know, November, you know, Black Friday type deals and Christmas and all that kind of stuff, and World Cup at the end of the year as well, which is another big seller of TVs.
Yep. And we know that services are the bread and butter of companies like PlayStation, Xbox, and things like that. They make most of their money there on those services. And you even start to see, you saw over the last couple of years, the reporting changes, not to how many copies of the game were sold, but how many people have been playing the game, right? The user base, the concurrent user base, and things like that. So it's a change that people are resisting as natural. It's, you know, people don't like change for the most part, and the way that we are going to play and consume our games is consistently changing, and it's just going to take time. You know, you do see those tweets out there, oh, cloud gaming sucks, Stadia sucks, all this other stuff, and then you also see, oh, well, I love xCloud, because they're Xbox fans, right? Because now that Xbox has, you know, the cloud service there, they're going to willing to try it out, and they could see, oh yes, well, you know, it actually does work. This actually is pretty neat. You know, maybe for them, it's not going to be the replacement. It's a supplement, and that's totally fine. No one's saying that it has to be the end all be all, right?
To me, it's a little interesting when before Stadia came out, or before GFN, people were saying, "Oh, there's no way with the technology that it's going to feel like playing local. There's no way that's not going to feel good." And then that wasn't the case.
And that was understandable, you know, because and you know, I talked about it, you know, in the early days of Stadia, that there is some sort of wizardry going on. Because you can understand, you know, with people saying, yeah, but it's not the same as watching TV. You know, you can buffer the TV. This means they have to send a response. There has to be a lag or latency. And you're probably going, you know what, actually, yeah, you're probably right. There has to be, you know, but as I've said it loads of times, you know, on November the 20th, you know, 21st, when my Founders Edition turned up, oh my God, it turned up too late. Stadia's dead. It didn't arrive on the 19th, you know, whatever. 2 days later, oh my God, I can't wait for that time. I've given up. I hate this. I hate this service. It's the worst service in the world. My box didn't come for 2 days. Anyway, I fired up Destiny 2 and it blew me away.
Yeah.
Right. And I play it on the Xbox One, and it was better. In terms of, it looked better and it played better, because on Xbox One at the time it was 1080 but at 30 frames per second, and on Stadia it was 1080 and 60 frames per second, and so it looked and played better on Stadia than it did on my current console. And it was at that point I just thought, my God, they've done it, you know. It was, and because I tried Project xCloud like several months before, and whilst you say, oh, it was how I imagined it would be, like sort of all right, but you'd really notice the lag. But it's sort of as a second option, it's sort of, I can sort of get through it. But yeah, but then when I tried Destiny 2 on Stadia, you know, in November 2019, it was like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
That's really my experience as well. I played 3 Batman games on GFN. I had a Shield and I was like grandfathered in or whatever. I played 3 Batman titles, so I knew that the cloud was viable because there was a little bit of lag, you know, you could feel it like going through muddy water or something, you know, but it was very much playable. And then when I saw all the data locations or the server farms where Stadia would be, I was like, oh wow, compared to GFN, this could be amazing. So I invested in Stadia and I fired up Destiny 2, and then immediately after playing 5 minutes, shut it off and started buying some games like Red Dead. Because it proved it to me. It proved that it was solid and it looked great. And
now we have the evidence from the experts, right? Digital Foundry are considered to be the experts at this kind of measuring this kind of exactly what we're talking about, latency, lag, all this kind of stuff. And you know, the difference between 1080p 60 frames per second, the difference between Xbox One Series X, GeForce Now, and Stadia, you are talking. So this is not cloud. This is Xbox One Series X native. You're talking about a 2 millisecond difference. You know, it's like 87, 85, 84. And even at that level, you just think, well, that's going to vary slightly, isn't it? Give or take a couple of milliseconds. So you're saying it is at least as good, if not potentially, they claimed GeForce top tier, 1 or 2 milliseconds or whatever it was better. But Stadia was only one maybe 2 milliseconds off, really low, like off native Xbox Series X level. So it has been sort of measured scientifically or tested by people who test these sort of things. So it proves the point, and that in itself, I think, is amazing. And it was great to see Digital Foundry, you know, do that. And I know they were doing it for GeForce Now, but the secondary outcome of that is, when you looked at the Destiny side of things, was the fact that, you know, it's as good as the response that you're getting on an Xbox One Series X natively on Stadia or GeForce Now, which is amazing.
Yeah, because you didn't have to buy the box.
And we know that it's only going to get better. Right.
Exactly.
Because streaming TV got better, streaming music got the fidelity of music got better. You know,
we're going to see those data requirements go down with the new codecs, right?
The Xbox Series X is not going to get better,
right?
If you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, they may be able to learn to program games, and
they can program advantage of some AI, or to you know, sort of, you know, change the settings like we see with NVIDIA and stuff like that, and the DLSR, whatever it's called, and all that kind of tech. But technically, the hardware isn't going to get any better,
right?
You know, because it's hardware that you've bought that's under your TV. It's not. I'm not dismissing the Xbox Series X, but the point is, we can see tiny incremental improvements in cloud technology, as we've already seen with GeForce Now, as Stadia, even xCloud as well. So I'm not discounting xCloud. We've seen xCloud, we've seen leaps and bounds. They've come on from where they were. GeForce Now, obviously, you know, piled in with their top tier. And people are saying, wow, this is ridiculously good. It's super slick where I am. Amazing. And Stadia's always been consistently good. And so we've seen incremental increases, you know, slightly. And over time, that's just only going to improve. And that's the great thing about cloud, is that we know that it'll only get better.
Yep. As time goes on.
It will.
Well, although we do have more originally planned, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up today's show here. We're about an hour and 45 minutes into it here.
That's the cost you have inviting me on.
Oh, well, no, it's good. We had a great discussion. You know, thank you to God for coming on here. I appreciate it. I know you're a very busy person. You've got a lot of people always asking you for things. So it's good that you could very
Yeah,
demanding.
yeah. I've got a
You could take
big to-do list. Yeah,
big to do this.
I've got 7 days to do it. Well, I might rest on the 7th.
That's right. Yeah, 6 technically. So you got
Have
to
a
cram
day off.
everything in here.
Yeah.
William SPG, thank you so much for coming on the show here as always.
Thank you.
Awesome. And we had MM2K, he had to drop.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, for coming on here. A great discussion, and Fletch as well. You know, this is great when we can all get together and have a reasonable, an educated talk, and very sensible, and look at things critically and evaluate them. It's fantastic. So you can help clear through the drama and the shenanigans that goes on. That maybe some people purposely, or some that just don't understand, but just having the sit down and having the people in on the chat as well. I saw was great conversations going on there, getting their input in this as well. So it's all been fantastic. And Rock, I'm not sure if he's listening. I know he's still really feeling bad. We hope you get better. We'll be back again next week, same bat time and same bat channel. And thank you so much, everybody.
Shout out to Purple Haze there for the $3.
Oh, there we go. I didn't even see that show up here.
There it is.
I wonder if he was referring to Buddy Christ.
Oh my gosh. Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you all again real soon. Awesome.
Yep, that was a fun, guys.
There we are.
Yes,
Good
that
stuff.
was super fun. Yeah. I know we had other stuff to talk